Welcome to the Aledo Bearcats Coaches Show podcast, a presentation of Real Country 92.1 Hank FM. Live from Blue Rays in New Orleans and Hudson Oaks, the Aledo Bearcats Coaches Show podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. And now, here's the voice of the Bearcats, Kevin Lonnquist.
And we welcome you to Blue Rays of New Orleans here in Hudson Oaks for another edition of the Aledo Coaches Show podcast. I'm Kevin Lonnquist. Blue Rays celebrating its 20th anniversary this year. They have other locations in Lake Worth and in Crowley. And as always, we're brought to you by our other presenting sponsors in H5 Sports Barn and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. Playoff berths have been clinched for both the boys and girls teams. They did that last week with wins over Saginaw Chisholm Trail and Keller Fossil Ridge. Always nice to say that when you still have games left to play in January before the season even gets into February. Season is winding down for the girls. 3 games remaining for them, starting on Tuesday over at Saginaw High. They are 18-11 and 7-2 in District 5-5A, and they will be the number 1 seed in Division I when the playoffs begin in a couple of weeks, and then kind of peaking at Brewer for the district championship. Brewer lost last week, so they're actually 1 game behind the Lady Bears. They've got to win out, and Brewer actually has to lose 2 more times because Brewer has the tiebreaker over Aledo. So we'll see what Donny Ott's team can do about that. They can't control what Brewer does, but they can control what they can control. Now for the boys, 24-4 in this unprecedented season, 8-0 in District 5-5A, and it's nice to have members of the Booster Club joining us here at Blue Rays. 2-game lead over Brewer in the race for the district title. And in our first segment, we are going to be joined by girls coach Donny Ott and then boys coach Brian Blackburn. In our second segment, we'll be joined on the boys' side by senior forward Brett Barclay, and on the girls' side, junior forward Tiara Butler. Okay. Guys, let's just talk about, first of all, just clinching the playoff berth. It's a great feeling to know that you will be playing in the postseason. That's always everything a coaching staff would like to have get into their season, because that means that you have a chance to play for something big getting down to San Antonio in March. But what does that mean for you all to do that, to do this in your first years here at Aledo? We'll start with you on this, Donny.
It's awesome. It's a great feeling. I'm happy for our community. I'm happy for our program. And I'm just happy the way our girls responded this week. It was such a huge week for us to have 2 very meaningful games like that on the road and at home. And I'm just really pleased to see that our girls responded the way they did, and the crowd and the environment that came out to support both programs on Friday night was just incredible. I mean, you could tell that the community felt like it was a playoff game, and they came out in waves to support both the girls and the boys program. So it was very exciting.
Okay, and then for you, Brian, to get this program into the playoffs. They haven't been there a lot in their history, but the fact that they got back again, because they made it last year, of course, too.
Yeah. No, this has been great. Right now we're kind of in that middle grind of our district play, and so it's really important that the guys stay fresh, that we stay focused, and that we continue to try to find ways to have fun. And so I think that's kind of where we are right now. And, our guys are really excited about starting the playoffs. Yeah. But we still have some work to do, so we got to keep them focused.
And we'll get to that. And let's just talk a little bit about some of the intricacies in this with Donny for your team. As we mentioned a moment ago, the number 1 seed in Division I. So you kind of know where your path is. And so as far as that is concerned, how do you kind of navigate your team through these last 3 games, knowing that even though everything appears to be pretty much locked down for that, but you still have to get them still fine-tuned, that sort of thing?
Yeah, we've just been really impressing upon them the importance of just continuing to focus on 1 game at a time and trying to improve ourselves, because we definitely don't want to go into the playoffs playing, on a downhill. Like, we don't want to decline from where our momentum has been going. So it's really just about watching a lot of film on us, watching the film on what we need to do to correct some things that we know that won't allow us to be successful in the playoffs. So I think it's just trying to keep them really motivated on improving each game.
Okay, and then for you, Brian, obviously this program has never won a district title. Still have a little ways to go because you have 4 games left to play. Chasing some history there. So there's obviously that great feeling to get into the postseason, as we talked about. But then when you're looking ahead to something that's never been done here, how does that challenge? What's that challenge for you and your staff to make sure that it don't make it bigger than it is? Try and treat Saginaw for what it is on Tuesday, and then going forward into Granbury on Friday.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't talked about it a ton. We did talk about it a little bit after during that bye week, But really now it's just kind of back to the same routine. And sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. Right now, the routine becomes monotonous because we're playing Tuesday, Friday, practice hard Monday, Thursday, recovery practice Wednesday, Saturday. And sometimes the guys can get tired of that. But I think, as the season kind of comes to a close, our guys are really, really excited about the opportunity to be the first to do something at Aledo. And, we don't want to take that for granted.
Okay, so let's talk about the fact that I'm going to be kind of reversing myself here because of the fact that there might be some complacency that you all have to kind of guard against, because even though your postseason situations are known, that could be very easy, just human nature, to kind of dial back and not be as focused. So as a coach, and I'll start with you on this, Brian, as far as just making sure that your team still is locked in, because even though you know what you're doing in February, you still have to make sure that things don't get kind of sideways in terms of habits and things like that.
Yeah, that's a tough balance. And so, we want to continue to get better through our games. We've played really, really well. I thought we played really well on Friday. We just didn't shoot the ball very well. And so, that's something that we can work on in practice. Everything that we do poorly right now in games, we feel like we can just get better at in practice. And so if we can continue to get our guys to believe in that, then we're going to be fine. And then, once the playoffs hit, it's supposed to be fun. Like this is, we told the guys today in practice that half the teams are just going to be wiped off. Their season's over. And so now there's only half the teams left. And then after the first round of the playoffs, another half, they're gone. And so it's just really exciting because the first year with the big school, small school split, there's not as many schools competing. There's one less round in the playoffs. And then, we have an opportunity to do something that hasn't been done. All those things should kind of keep our excitement.
Sure. And then, Donny, how do you see that?
We really try to find things that we know can be detrimental to our success in the playoffs and point those out in film and try to work on those in practice. And there are things that we can control. We know that we're not going to be able to shoot the ball extremely well every night, but we do know that we can defend and switch on screens and, defend certain actions off screens. So we talk about that in practice and try to really focus on those things, like the controllables. And just, try to, like Brian said, is just let them have fun, enjoy this time right now. But certainly, keep the mindset of not becoming complacent, because it can bite you in the butt real quick. It's a very humbling game. So, it's important to keep them motivated in that aspect.
And I'm going to ask both of you, if there is one bad habit that a team can pick up that a coach has to try and course correct and can be kind of difficult to kind of get that out of a team system when we get to this part of the season, especially in the situations that both of you all are in, what would that be, Donny? I'll start with you. You get to answer that first, and then Brian.
I'm excited to hear what he
you take
says.
this straight first, and then it'll be up to
I don't know what it
Brian
is.
on that.
I'm excited.
Man, yeah, that's a tough one. I think a lot of it is just the little things and the details in what you approach, like taking for granted talking, like just the simple thing, like communicating on defense. Like sometimes, you play, like for us, 29 games and you win, a majority of them, and you think, oh yeah, well, we don't have to talk on, this all the time. And so sometimes they get a little lax on that. Even as simple as shooting free throws, those things come in important play in aspects in the playoffs. And it takes just one communication breakdown in the playoff to lose. I've been in some very close playoff games, and I've been on the downside of some of those games. And, when you look back on it, we could have talked more. And so we tell the girls all the time, look, I don't want to lose a game and say we could have done this. Like if we lose, it's, okay, we did everything we should have. We talked on defense, we communicated, we worked hard, we got on the floor for loose balls. We just didn't shoot the ball very well that night. And if we lose that away, I'm okay. But if we lose because we take for granted the little things, like I said, as simple as talking on defense, then that's where I feel like that's something we can control and certainly feel like it's something that we don't want to neglect.
Okay, and then what about for you, Brian?
I like that answer.
I was going to say, he probably just took your thunder on that, didn't he?
One thing one of my mentors taught me was more championships are lost over training than under training. And so I think this time of year, rest is a weapon. And so, the opportunity for us, our guys to work really hard in practice, but then get the rest. And we mentioned this last week a little bit.
Right.
I think that's really important because we want everybody to be fresh. Like we want their bodies to be fresh, want their minds to be fresh. And so, something like that would be what I would say is, just use rest as a weapon and make sure that we're fresh.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your teams. Brian, we'll start with you with Joaquin Pacheco having an outstanding season. He's probably going to be the district MVP at this rate, averaging 21 points a game, about that same between both the regular season and the season average. But I'm curious about what you've seen, how teams have tried to guard him, because you could probably see with somebody like him that teams could run a box and one at him, or they might run a double team to him every time he's on the catch. What have you seen? Because he's also going to be the first thing that teams talk about on the opposing scouting report for sure. Mm-hmm. So what have you seen defensively that's come at him, and how have you guys tried to respond to that?
Well, first I want to talk about the two guys that are here, Brett Barclay and Pete Previtt. Those two guys, practice-wise, have done an amazing job just making sure that as seniors, our practices are top-notch. And so for us to simulate maybe what Joaquin would see during a real game, it starts with these two guys in practice. And so I'm very grateful and blessed to have coached both these guys during their senior year. And I'm hoping that, as these guys grow up, not only did I help them become better people this season, better basketball players, but, maybe they'll reach out and I'll be able to help them as they become adults. And so I'm super grateful for those two guys, because they've helped Joaquin this season so much in understanding, like, I don't have to score every time. I don't have to, I don't have to try to score against three defenders. And so I think we noticed that probably the last 3 or 4 games is Joaquin is way more unselfish with the ball because of how those two guys have kind of helped in practice. And so I'm really grateful for that. A couple of things that we do, and the reason it's hard to guard him is because he's such a good rebounder. So he's averaging almost 11 rebounds a game. Okay. And so as a guard that rebounds like that, he can rebound it and start a fast break, and it's really hard to double team someone that's doing that. And then he's also a really good offensive rebounder. And so, teams will face guard him, and we have a couple actions and sets that we can run that help with that. We can try to post him up some, as maybe a little bit bigger guard than some of the people that are guarding him. And then, our ball screen action, Brett's involved with that quite a bit. We'll if they trap on the ball screens, then we'll be able to short roll into the middle of the paint rather than all the way to the basket. And so now Brett and Towns and some of our other forwards are able to make decisions with the ball. So we have some counters to what we normally do. And I think, like I said, because of what Pete and Brett have done in practice, Joaquin's really bought into some of those things.
And we'll be talking with Brett about that, too, when he joins us here for the second segment. So you're on the spot for that, Brett, by the way. And then, Donny, about your team, the balance that you have on this squad, I think that works to your advantage, too, because not many opponents can lock on somebody here and there. And I'm curious about that because, even though Tiara, who's going to be joining us here in the second segment, she's had a huge district season for you, averaging 12.5 points, shooting a really high percentage. And so, but having said all that, when you do have that you have 12s, you got 10s, you got 9s, you got 7s on your average scoring, what does that mean in terms of just having those types of options offensively that teams can't key on somebody specifically?
I love it. One of the things I try to do is I always try to scout ourselves to see kind of like, are we going through one person? Is one person determining all of our actions and so forth? And right now, I'm very pleased at the way we're sharing the ball, and we're getting everyone involved. I think it's just such a healthy balance for us to be able to have. Realistically, we have 3 double-figure scores. We got 2 for sure in double figures, and we got 1 right there on the verge of it. Right. And I think it's just a nice compliment to be able to have that. Our role players understand their role, and they come in and they don't try to do too much, and they get in there and they work for the boards and they contribute. And so it's been a fun team to be a part of in regards to that, because I feel like it allows us to do a lot offensively. And then the offense that we run, it's a positionless offense to where they have opportunities to score from different areas. They can outside, inside. That's one thing that I'm real proud about with T this year. She's kind of really been developing and not being afraid to shoot those threes as much now as she started off at the beginning of the year. And I think it's just seeing where you can score within our offense. And I think that's what makes our offense so fun is there's a lot of areas to score in it, and there's a lot of opportunities for multiple people to score. I was also going to ask you this, too, as we wrap this up, because I believe senior night is on Friday against Granbury. I think you have one more home game, or are you done with Granbury? Okay. So we'll do our senior night February 10th. Okay. Girls' senior night is this upcoming Friday. Okay, so you have your senior night, and we'll talk to you about this with Granbury. Obviously, Donny, for you all that
It's obviously there's a lot of emotions for a first year, and it's always going to be emotional for seniors, that sort of thing, because it's their last time to get on the court wearing the uniform and representing the school. How have you kind of treated senior nights previously? And of course, you got a team in Granbury that's desperately trying to stay in the playoff hunt too.
Yeah, that's what makes this year's senior night a little interesting, is because Granbury they're fighting for a playoff spot. So, typically, you see a lot of teams that'll schedule their senior night for that gimme game, so to speak, that they feel like it kind of eliminates some of the distractions. And in our situation this year, it's a big game for us. We don't want to go into the playoffs playing poorly, so we got to make sure we execute and play well that game. But these seniors this year, I can't even begin to express how lucky I am to be here with these seniors. It's such a phenomenal group of seniors. My biggest regret that I have this year is that I just wish I could have coached them more. I wish I could have been here a couple of years with them, because they're just such an amazing group. You have, Kinley Elms and Ella Isbell and Augie. Becca, Savannah. It's just a really, really incredible group to be around. And I just hope that we rally around them and have a great senior night for them this Friday.
All right, the seniors, as Donny was speaking of, a senior guard, Augie Carloni. We call her Augie. Of course, she goes by August, formally speaking. Ella Isbell is a senior. She's a 5'11" guard and forward. Rebecca Gerald, 5'10" post, as well as Savannah Salas, who is a senior. She's a guard, as well as Kinley Elms, the senior. And, of course, she's going to be playing volleyball down at Lamar when she gets down there in the summer. We
also have, I'm sorry, I wanted to make sure I pointed this out.
Sure.
As seniors, we have our student assistants, McKenna Sweat and Peyton Flores, are two seniors as well, and they've been a part of this program all 4 years. And they are just incredible humans that do everything for our program, that keeps all the things running smoothly. So we're going to really try to do something special for them this Friday as well, to make sure that they continue to feel loved and a part of this program.
So, and then finally for you, Brian, and thank you for sharing that too, Donny. I appreciate that, and I'm sure those players, or those young ladies, will appreciate that as well. You're kind of in the same situation too with Granbury, because they're fighting for that last spot. They've got the fourth playoff spot, and they got Saginaw breathing down their neck. They obviously are your biggest cheerleaders on Tuesday night too, with Saginaw.
I bet, yeah.
So, so when you play a team like this that is fighting for it, and of course we just talked to Donny about that on his side, but when you are playing a team that's kind of in that position where they can be more aggressive, and you're kind of in that situation that we just talked about, what's kind of the approach that you take with a game like that?
Yeah, we just have to try to figure out a play with urgency, figure out a way to play with urgency. And so, that's good that this time of year we're going to get everybody's best shot. Mm-hmm. And so, some of the teams that we maybe blew out in the first round of district, it's not going to be that way in the second round. Saginaw's playing way better than they were in the first round of district right now. And so, someone like that tomorrow night could be a trap game for us. And so we want to make sure that we bring our best effort. And, as coaches, it's our job to make sure the players understand that a lot of the teams we're playing in the second round, it's not the same team.
Right.
These guys are playing for, literally, they're playing for their basketball careers.
Right.
And so that's good, because we're going to get everybody's best shot. And so it makes us play better and have to play harder.
And to your point, Granbury probably feeling a little bit snake-bitten too, because they dropped a couple games in the beginning of the district season where they lost by, I think it was a total of 3 points lost to you, I think by one. Yeah. And so, so you know what they're capable of.
That's right.
And so, all right. Well, gentlemen, we appreciate your time. Again, good luck to you this week. The Bearcats and Lady Cats will be on the road Tuesday night over at Saginaw High School, and then senior night for the Lady Cats against Granbury, and then that'll be followed by the boys' game against the Pirates. And then when we come back here on the second segment, we will be joined by Tiara Butler as well as Brett Barclay. But first, we want to remind you that this Aledo podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn. H5 Sports Barn and Nye Physio and Performance can help unlock your athletic potential and elevate your game like the Aledo Bearcats. With expert sports physical therapy, tailored recovery plans, and top-notch sports performance training, H5 Sports Barn, proud supporters of the Aledo Bearcats. And by Hiley Mazda, head to Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth today. Their new state-of-the-art facility is conveniently located just off of I-30. Exit Las Vegas Trail and experience top-notch service and hassle-free buying. Don't forget to ask about this month's special offers. Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth, family owned and operated for over 30 years. Donny, Brian, thanks so much, and we'll talk to you all next week.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you again.
On the other side of this break, Tiara, Butler, Brett Barclay. Stick around. The podcast continues after this timeout. Second segment of the Aledo Coaches Show podcast. Now time to visit with a couple of players, one from each squad here as we continue as the Bearcats and the Lady Cats are going to be playing in the playoffs this year. Joining us from the girls' side is Tiara Butler, 5'9" junior. She's a guard plus a forward. We're going to talk to her about her three-point shooting prowess here in just a few moments. And then joining us for the boys will be senior Brett Barclay, who is a senior, and he stands at 6'2". All right, so first of all, congratulations to you both for making the postseason. I want to talk to you about just making the playoffs and what that feeling is like. And Tiara, I'm going to start with you about what's that feeling like, knowing that you've clinched a playoff berth and you know that you're going to be playing a little bit deeper into February.
It's definitely exciting. I'm really excited that this team has made it this far. I'm really excited.
Okay, and then Brett, what about for you?
I think it's really cool, and I'm just really excited to go play with the guys, and hopefully we can go pretty far.
Okay, and I've asked this for you guys, for all the players that have come through this podcast in recent podcasts about just making the adjustment to different coaches and so forth. And so obviously, we'll start with you, Tiara, because obviously you had Coach Hiles there for the longest time. She'd been there forever. And so you make this change from her to Coach Ott. What was that been like for you? What was the biggest change in terms of just transitioning that and then changing your game and to adjust to what Coach Ott was looking for?
I actually just recently moved here from Virginia, so
okay.
I move around a lot, so I'm used to adjusting to new coaches.
Okay.
I really have enjoyed this season and my new coach. It's his first year here too, so.
Okay, what's that challenge been like though? Since you do move around, so let's talk a little bit about as far as just dealing with that and when you have to adjust, because when you go through that kind of life, when you're changing from team to team or location to location, that you have to be mentally strong to handle all those changes, I would think.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult adapting to the different coaching styles, but it's overall very helpful in like all these aspects, and I've improved over time.
Okay, and I'll get back to you on just playing in different states, what that's been like for you. But let's go with you, Brett, because obviously Coach Robinson there for the last couple of years had a pretty good run last year. You guys won a playoff game, but what was that like transitioning from him to Coach Blackburn this year?
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a lot tougher than it was, but Coach Blackburn made it pretty seamless, and it's been pretty great.
How do you see that? I mean, where have you seen how has this been so seamless, do you think?
I just think the way he came, even during the school year last year and was around kind of, and then all the summer we worked out with him, and I think it kind of meshed the two together, and I think it was really good for us.
Okay. And I want to ask you a little bit about this, too, as we were talking about this with Coach Blackburn, because the fact that this program is trying to do something that it's never done in its history by winning a district championship. And, of course, last year when you all won your by-district playoff game, that was only the second playoff win in school history. So the fact that you guys are doing this, what's the season been like to go through this when there's been this unparalleled amount of success that you guys are going through?
Yeah, so I think it's just been so much fun because I didn't expect us to be 24-4 and already clinch a playoff spot and fighting for the first district championship, and I think it's just been really fun and really just enjoying.
What do you think has clicked, and why has it clicked, do you think?
I think it's just our team is so close and everyone plays. No one's selfish. Nobody's, I've got to score. I've got to do whatever. I think it's just we all just want to win.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and so Tiara, let's go with you. Okay, so tell us about the number of states where you've actually played basketball in. So obviously here, and then where else?
I've played in Chicago and Virginia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Curious though about when you're playing in Illinois and when you're playing in Virginia, that what's the style of basketball like here versus what you've faced in those two other states?
Here it's definitely a lot more competitive.
Is it more physical here? Is it more fast-paced, or how would you define that?
It's a very fast-paced. Everyone's really competitive. Everyone just wants to win.
Okay. And see, that's where everyone thinks that Texas is a football state. Not so much, especially when it comes to basketball. Okay, so let me ask you this. Because, Tiara, when we talk about you and obviously these changes that you've made, and so you're having to mesh with all these players, for you, what was important for you so that you've helped that you could get into this chemistry with them so that you could kind of find your spot on the team? And what did Coach Ott do to kind of help you get to that spot where you were feeling comfortable with them?
Everyone was very welcoming with me coming in here. We do a lot of team bonding, and everyone's just really welcoming and click, and we all socialize. There's no cliques. We're all together. Coach Ott was very welcoming. It's his first year here too, so we really clicked with that.
All right. And then for you, Brett, I mean, what do you think? I know I just asked you this, but I'm asking you kind of specifically. Was there a particular stretch or particular number of games that helped, that you guys won earlier in the year, that kind of helped this thing take off to where here we are at 24-4?
So I think it was our first 6 games, and we went undefeated for the first 6, and it was the best start in school history, and that was kind of when I realized that we had a chance to do something special.
Do you ever think to yourself, am I in the right program here, or what's going on?
No, I always thought, I always thought this was a good place.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about with this team. I'm going to ask you, because Coach Blackburn was talking about the job that you guys have done just working on Joaquin Pacheco. What can you kind of point to what you guys have done to kind of challenge him to help him raise his game? What's been the work in the practice that's kind of, you don't have to sell all the secrets, but or dip the secret or expose the secret sauce, but what's been important to help him?
I think it's a lot of our live. In practice, we do a lot of 5-on-5. If it's on varsity, JV on varsity. And so I think it's a lot of live reps that just help him and everybody else improve.
Is it more of a physical thing? Is it more of just a communication thing? Or what do you see there that's kind of changed all that?
I think both, because you've got to be physical and you got to match up, and then you also have to communicate with your team on defense and on offense. So. Okay.
Tiara, let's talk a little bit about you guys. Obviously, you know where your situation is, and I'm going to ask you this too on your side of this, Brett, but as far as this team already knows that it's going to go into the playoffs. It's going to be the number 1 seed in Division I here in 5A. You have 3 games left, so it's kind of like you kind of know where it's kind of like you're playing with house money these last 3 games. But how do you guys make sure that you're not going to be complacent and that there is something to always strive to get better for in each game?
We practice a lot. We make sure to keep our head in the game. We know that just because we won, we can't just relax on these next games. We're always working to get better.
Okay, and then for you, Brett, for you guys, even though you are chasing this district championship, but you still have your playoff situation kind of set. So how do you make sure that you guys don't fall into that complacency thing where it's like, oh, we already know we're going to the playoffs and we can just kind of cruise? But how do you avoid that?
I think we just take it game by game. So right now we're not thinking about Brewer or playoffs or any of that. We're thinking about Saginaw. We're thinking about the next game, just the next day. Just take it day by day. All
right. So Tiara, I want to talk to you a little bit about your game so far this year. Shooting 4, and this is in district play. You're averaging a team high 12.7 points per game, 78 rebounds in these first 9 games. So it's a huge number there. And then you're shooting 46%. What's kind of clicked for you on the offensive side?
On my past teams, I've been more in the post area, but with our 2 volleyball players coming back, it's allowed me to come out and play a guard. So I've really been training and working hard and just trying to improve.
Okay, so anything particular in your game? Is it more or less your ability to drive or settle or maybe take the mid-range jumper? What's been kind of your game? Tell us a little about your game and what's kind of your strength there?
As you said, I get a lot of rebounds, so a lot of my points come from rebounds and fast breaks.
Okay. And then, Brett, let's talk a little bit about your game. What's kind of the strength of what you do and kind of what you've been able to contribute this year?
I just try to be a team player and space the floor, spread it out, and just do my job.
Okay. What kind of defenses do you think have you guys seen the most this year? I mean, have you guys seen much of full court press? I'll start with you on this, Brett. And how have you guys tried to counter whatever you've seen?
Definitely mostly man, and then not a lot of presses because we beat them pretty easily. So.
Okay, and then what about anything? You mentioned trap. I think you're about to say traps. Do you guys get a lot of traps in the backcourt or at the midcourt line or anything like that?
Joaquin gets trapped a lot, but he's really good about playing out of it and then just playing from there.
Okay, and then what have you seen defensively so far, Tiara?
A lot of man.
Mm-hmm. Is it
Press,
is it a lot of, is it pretty physical though on that side, or how have you guys been able to deal with that? And so
It's pretty physical for our guards, so as posts, we need to make sure we're coming up and helping and adjusting to whatever they're throwing at us.
okay, so let's just talk finally here as we wrap this up. Let's ask a little bit about just forwarding just to these. You have one more home game coming up against Granbury. You still have 3 games overall left, but what's kind of been your mindset about how do I want to get better? Obviously I want to be a team player first, but how do I want to work on my game so it'll be better so that we can go as far as we can in the playoffs? What do you think you're working on right now?
I just think I need to work on not so much of focusing on the mistakes or the losses and just improving, working hard, training. Yeah.
Is it a footwork thing? Is it more just better communication with your teammates, or is it anything like in terms of just your shot form or anything like that? Things that you're working on?
I can definitely start working on my shot form, just getting a lot of shots up.
Okay, and then Brett, what about for you? Anything specifically that you're just kind of working on right now?
A lot of the same, just shots, getting shots up, and then some defense, and then.
Confession time here. I lied because I have one more question. So confession time here. When you go through all these reps on a day in and day out basis, does it get a little boring? You got your coaches looking at you, but you can tell me it doesn't get boring. Okay.
No.
Great answer. Okay, we got it on that. All right. I want to thank both Tiara Butler and Brett Barclay joining us here for this second segment of the Aledo Coaches Show podcast. And just a reminder to you that we are brought to you by H5 Sports Barn. H5 Sports Barn and Nye Physio and Performance can help unlock your athletic potential and elevate your game like the Aledo Bearcats. With expert sports physical therapy, tailored recovery plans, and top-notch sports performance training, H5 Sports Barn, proud supporters of the Aledo Bearcats. And Hiley Mazda. Head to Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth today. Their new state-of-the-art facility is conveniently located just off of I-30, exit Las Vegas Trail, and experience top-notch service and hassle-free buying. Don't forget to ask about this month's special offers. Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth, family-owned and operated for more than 30 years. Don't forget the Bearcats. Well, of course, none of these folks are going to forget, but the Bearcats are on the road Tuesday at Saginaw, home to Granbury on Friday. And again, both of these teams are postseason bound. So as great as these crowds have been at home for the last couple of games, make sure you come out and support them as they are on the road, because got to get on the you're going to be driving with these teams because they're going to be playing in some playoff games. So get used to getting behind the steering wheel to follow these teams. We'll be back here next week with Coach Blackburn and Coach Ott and also selected players as we will start looking ahead to the playoffs because they are right around the corner. Until next week, I'm Kevin Lonnquist. Thanks for joining us. So long, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Aledo Coaches Show podcast, brought to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. With the voice of the Bearcats, Kevin Lonnquist. Please like and subscribe to this podcast and tell a friend. You're also welcome to join us every Monday night at 7 for Boo Rays of New Orleans and Hudson Oaks. It's the Aledo Coaches Show podcast, a presentation of Real Country 92.1 Hank FM.